Good. All right. Welcome, everyone. Okay, we are so excited about this vision board planning Zoom. So like I said, if you don't have paper and a pen, make sure you go and grab that because you're definitely going to want to take some notes. And you're probably going to want to reflect on some of these questions afterwards. So I will post this PowerPoint that I'm going to share in the Zoom so that way you can see these questions and be able to really discuss them. We'll get into kind of like the next steps from here at the end, but we're just really excited. We hope you find this really valuable. I am going to screen share so you can see. Okay. Can you see okay? Okay. So we just feel like this is going to be really, really valuable for you to spend some time reflecting and spend some time planning for a vision board, because we just feel like this can really help you to not just think about goals, and which are great, but that's really not a part of your vision. So we're going to kind of break that down and help you to understand the difference and why having a vision is so important. Okay, so Katie, did you want to talk about this part?
Okay, so I think first it's really important to think about what's the difference between a goal and a vision. And I think it's really important in our business to really think through, what does this mean? As I think it's Harper that always describes this as really peeling back the layers of an onion and to really think bigger. Because a goal may be something like, I want to be director, or I want to go on the cruise. But tonight we want you to think bigger than that. And we want you to think about what would going on a trip mean for your family? What would it look like to be able to earn $1,000, $2,000, whatever your income goal is for your family? What would it look like to be able to take a day off and just go to lunch with your spouse because you don't have to clock into a 9-to-5 job? And to really think long term, because I think in our business, you know, our business is a growth business. And what you'll find is year after year after year, those benefits that we get in Shaklee will compound and continue to grow year after year. And so I think it's really important. The other piece I want to talk about is that a lot of times when we focus on our goal, I heard this recently and I thought it really struck me, because a lot of times when we focus on our goal, we think of the have, do, be. And what I mean by that is we reach for the things that we want to have, then we start doing them so we can be in a certain place. But instead, what I want to encourage us tonight to think about is to kind of flip that, and instead to think about who can we be so that we can do certain things and have the kind of vision come to fruition in our business. So what does that look like? Well, I think for me personally, I'd want to encourage us to kind of stop for a second here and to think about, if you have a certain vision for your business, maybe it's to quit your 9-to-5 job, maybe it's to be able to make $1,000, maybe it's to retire your spouse early, or retire you early, or pay for college tuition. I want you to think about, what do you need to be in order for those to take place? So what I mean by that, I kind of jotted down what some of mine were, and I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love for this to be interactive. So I'd love to hear from you in a minute here. What are some of the characteristics that you want to personally work on? And I'll share 5 of them with you, although I'll be honest, my list is way greater than 5. But the 5 that came to my mind is to continue to have patience in my business and perseverance. I think those things are really important when we're reaching for goals. That perseverance in going through hard times, hard seasons, the no's, the discouraging things that happen to you. I want to be a woman that constantly perseveres in our business and doesn't quit and doesn't give up and doesn't and learns to, as I said, persevere. I want to be somebody that has an abundant mindset. So who believes that every single vision that I have for my family can and will come true. Because I think if our mindset doesn't believe these things, all of this will be really hard to achieve. I want to be somebody that's courageous, that's willing to take risks and willing to step out of my comfort zone to reach these goals that I have. I want to be somebody that spends my time well, that's known as somebody who is not only an amazing wife and mom, but business partner, and who loves people well, and who, as I said, can spend my time well. I know that that will help me reach my goal. And then the last piece is I want to stop procrastinating on those things that I'm too afraid to do. And I want to be somebody that no longer procrastinates in my business, no longer procrastinates certain things that I know need to get done. So I'd love to kind of just pause right now. And I'd love for you to jot down, what are some of the things that you need to work on personally in order to achieve your goals? I'll just pause here for just a little bit, and then I'd love to hear from a few of you what you wrote down. All right, I'd love to hear, would anybody be brave enough to share what theirs were?
I will.
Awesome.
The two that I jotted down in the time allotted were build better systems within my business. That's a big goal of mine. And to just continue to share my story more.
Those are awesome.
I'll share.
Yay, awesome.
I think sometimes like I wake up in the morning and I just feel tired and there's so many things to do that I will just say, I'm going to do that in a little bit. I'm going to do that in a little bit. And then I might not get to it because everything comes up and happens. So I find that I do the best work when I do it like right after I drop the kids off for school. And if I work from like 8:30 to like 9:30, I get a lot done in the morning. But if I wait, there's always 100 things that happen that need to be done. And so it really doesn't take that long. It's just starting. So I feel like sometimes just like getting it done.
That's awesome. Those are really good. I think it's important to know when you work best, because for some people they're night owls, for other people they love the early mornings, and find those times that you have the most energy and use it well. That's great.
I can go. I think I have my video like off. It'll take me too long to figure it out. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, you can. Oh, okay. Okay. So I think mine would be, and I'm pretty new, but just figuring out, social media a little bit better. Okay. I don't use Instagram. I never really went on Facebook, and just being really, I have a calendar and I love looking at Sarah Galbraith's and stuff. But just like figuring out how to use social media better, even with the tools that you've given us, it has been amazing. And then also figuring out my niche, like what is my niche? I don't want to be posting or saying like I'm really into the skincare or I'm really into, women's vitals or kids. Like I can't figure it out, and I don't want to be scattered because, I'm really into Reiki and pranic healing like that. I want to be able to blend those things. So I'm not sure what that niche is. And I think that's really critical. And then just the guilt, like, the guilt that I'm on the phone when I get home, or, like when I'm on my phone, I'm trying to learn about products. Like I try to learn about a new product every few days, but just the guilt that comes with working so late, having to make dinner, clean up, like it's a lot of guilt, and it holds me back. And then two others, meeting new people. I don't have a lot of opportunity. That's not abundant. I don't know how to get myself out to more places to meet more people because I have little babies and, and then just events. Like I have all of these ideas, but, I feel weird going to a Starbucks, or I want to have more events, but it's a big cost when it's at my house.
Milk.
That was a lot. Sorry.
Milk.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, don't stop. Sorry.
That's all right. Anybody else want to share theirs?
I will if she'll let me. Sorry. She's very needy tonight. I need to work on just like my confidence and I think just like the visualization piece, like I see so many people talk about visualization and like, you know, putting out where you see yourself and things that you want to have happen, but talking about them as if they already are happening. So I think just working on like a positive mindset, instead of like, you know, starting off like the second week of the month and just being like, oh, this is going to be a terrible month. You know, like I just need to really work on that. And being bolder, I'm just by nature, I am a people pleaser and I overthink literally everything that you could overthink. I overthink it. And so I just need to really work on that. You know, I've been trying to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do it thing, which is helpful. Procrastination as well, like the things that I don't want to do or the people I'm scared to reach out to. Just getting that off my list first so I can stop thinking about it. And also, like Kristen said, like I just want to get a system because I still like a year later don't feel like organized. Like I don't feel like I know at the beginning of the month how I'm going to map everything out, how I'm going to do everything every week. So I just need to really work on that too.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Can I make an observation? Because I think this is interesting, and I don't want to get too deep here, but your question is, what do I need to be, right? And as I started to journal and think about that, like that's very hard oftentimes for us as women to define who or what we want to be. Like as we're talking a lot about what we'll do, right? That's easy for us to do, like make that checklist. This is gonna, but it's kind of a raw place to go when we think about who we want to be. And even as I'm jotting things down, I'm like having to retrain my thoughts. So I just say that because I think that is just such a natural place to go. And it's really going to be a discipline for me to slow down and think through that that's an okay thing to reflect on. Who am I? Who do I want to be? So I love that you pose that, Katie, because it does totally flip it on its head, you know? So anyways, just something that I was observing, and I did the same exact thing, you know, but really starting to think through, because then what happens, the be, then the do is after that, right? So we have to define that be first, and then know what we need to do to get there so that we can have. So very good question. Good question.
Karen, it's interesting. I observed the same thing. And as I was thinking about even people who shared knowing a lot of their words of the year and thinking about like really going back and that struggle that it is to do that and step back and say, that's exactly who, like, okay, who do I want to be? And I love that. You said it so eloquently, Karen.
Karen shared a really good podcast recently, and he talked about like habits, and he was talking about how you focus on, you know, and like, for example, like I'm going to be a runner. Like I'm a runner. And so you do these habits that, you know, put a vote in towards you being a runner. You know what I mean? And so I think about, you know, some of the qualities that I listed off for me: generous, loving, compassionate, trustworthy, joyful, disciplined, wise. Those are qualities that I want to have and want to be and live out, you know, throughout my life and my business and everything. And so I think about, okay, what, you know, that's what I want to be. And then what do I do to be that person? You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm a disciplined person. So that means that I wake up an hour early and do this or whatever it might be. Like So I think it's just it's a very interesting way of thinking about the kind of person we want to be and then what habits follow from there.
Awesome. Well,
Okay, so with that, thank you everyone for, oh, go ahead, Kate.
Oh yeah, this is great. And I would encourage you to, oftentimes the areas that I feel weak in is when I start searching for a podcast to encourage me. So like if I feel weak in social media or in time management or in mindset, then I look for, okay, what are some good podcasts so that I can start filling my mind with areas to, you know, to work on, I think is really important. Okay, so I've seen it over and over. The most effective visionary leaders aren't leaders who just have a vision. They're leaders who know how to envision. So I think what's really important is to take a step back and what is your purpose? And what is it that we are able to do because of our business? Purpose is your usefulness, your contribution, and your value. Purpose is the reason you or your organization exist, apart from what you do, how you do it, or what you get in return for what you do. What is your problem, and what would the world be like without your problem? And so we're going to spend a couple minutes here sharing different purposes that we each have, and whether it's time or experiences or relationships, and what each of those bring. But I think one of the things I just wanted to mention when it comes to this whole vision idea that we'll talk about too is make sure that you have a place in your home that you're going to be reminded of your purpose and being reminded of where you want to go and where your family wants to go. I love, I typically put on our fridge the next year trip. And it's not just about, oh, great, we get to go on a cruise, but it's more, wow, I get to spend 7 days with my husband to refill our marriage when we don't get a lot of date nights. And for Costa Rica, my dream is to be able to take my kids with us so that we can have a trip and have those, you know, they say that vacations and going away are one of the best things that you can do for your family. And so it becomes so much bigger than, oh, I like to travel and I like to not have to pay for it. And we'll share some specifics with you tonight, but I encourage you, you know, one of my biggest dreams that I had was to be able to move into the house that we had. And it was so much more than, oh, it's great, like I have more room for my kids, but my home becomes a place that I can easily entertain a large group of people. It becomes a place where I can have lots of kids running in and out because we have the space for it, where we can host lots of people who've spent the night at our house, because we no longer live in this like little teeny tiny house where Caleb was sleeping in the closet. And so that house became bigger than just a quote unquote house. And we worked so hard to set aside that money for our down payment month after month after month. And it wasn't overnight, but when you compound that over time, it grew into something big. And so I encourage you to think through tonight, what's something big that would mean a lot for your family, that a little bit every single month is going to compound into something really big.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important to look at. That purpose is the reason you or your organization exists, apart from what you do, how you do it, or what you get in return for what you do. Like, our purpose is not to get to director and, you know, sell 2,000 PV worth of products and in return make $800. Like, that's, do you see what I mean? Like, those are great little goals to have along your journey, but that's not your purpose. And so I think this is just so important. This is why we're doing this, is to really think about, what is my purpose? Go to the next slide.
So we're going to spend some time hearing from some of the leaders here on to think through what are some problems in your life. And what we mean by that is your reason for doing the business for more time for your family? Is it greater financial freedom? Maybe you're working to pay off debt. Maybe you're working to save for your kids' college tuition. Maybe you're working for that vacation, whatever that might look like. For For some of us, it's health related. You know, Vivix, and Harper might share this more too, but Vivix was on my dream board because I wanted to be able to pay for Vivix, which is a more expensive product, and not have to worry about where that was coming from. Or maybe it's chiropractor visits, or, you know, whatever that might look like for your family, health-wise, stress, fear and doubt, apathy. What would your life look like if you had a solution to all these problems? And we know that Shaklee is the solution for so many of these. We know that Shaklee is the solution for time, for finances, for worrying about future stuff, for health-related things. So think about right now and pause and think about, what would your life look like if you had the solution to that problem? What would your life look like if you didn't have to worry about how much you really wanted to get a lot of Shaklee products and you didn't have to think twice about it because your paycheck more than covered that? What would that look like to be able to provide that for your family, or to be able to have that vehicle that you that can safely take your family places? I'd love for us also to kind of pause for a little bit and then maybe share what some of you have, and then I think Karen is next then. Does anybody feel comfortable sharing?
Katie, I'll share.
Awesome.
I know I shared already. So the car payment was something on my dream board for a really long time, and it finally happened. And we had two really, really old vans that we were putting a lot of money into just to keep them running. And this is the first time I've ever had like a car that's less than 10 years old. So like a safe vehicle for my family. And then the other thing is like to stop tutoring on Saturdays, because I was gone all day Saturday. And my husband couldn't coach because I was gone from 8 to 4. And so that was something I just gave up like a month and a half ago. And then the last thing is, I know Harper's had this on her dream board for me too for a really long time. Isn't that cool? We can put our teammates' dreams on our dream board. That's one of my favorite things, is that she put my dreams on her dream board, which was so cool. I really want to take my kids on a mission trip to Africa, and when they're in their teen years. And so I know that this can provide for that. So sorry, they're so loud. Okay.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So powerful.
I think for me, it's kind of funny how I look at this list, and stress in my life is kind of associated with several of them, and always has been, from time to finances to health. I mean, and so I am someone who, I mean, we've been in financial stress for a long time for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest one is our failed adoption. We've just had a large amount that we've had to pay back because of it. And so I've never seen myself as wanting to live this lavish lifestyle, or I don't know, I'm just not wired like that. I mean, I don't even wear makeup, you guys, so I'm pretty simple. But I do long to have less stress when it comes to my finances, you know, and to just have that freedom of you know, not having any type of debt, even to the point of a mortgage or things like that. I don't want to be like enslaved to a bank, or, you know, things, I don't know, to that effect. So when I think about what Shaklee can do for me, you know, I do look at people that are further along and higher up who make a lot of money. And while that would be wonderful, it's not my purpose. You know, my purpose is truly to have enough to provide for my family for what we need, and really alleviate a lot of that stress. And I think even time, I've just in the last year or so, I've just created some disciplines in my life to just simplify my life, to free up time, you know, and obviously moving away from my full-time job has helped with that too, thanks to Shaklee. But I just, when I think of stress, it's just not how I want to live my life. And when we think about the way our day-to-day is, and even everyone around us, it's just kind of how society functions. And this has just been a good wake-up call, I think, for me. And Shaklee's really allowed me to have more control in each of these areas, which then in turn lessens the stress for me, which is huge. So.
Well, and I think for us too, like, it can be very easy to, I think, for those of us listening on this call who are women, it can be very easy to focus, like to think about like our time. But a huge thing for us was Ryan's time. And, now we're doing this business together, but in the beginning when I was doing it, it really gave flexibility to his time. And at the time when our business first started growing, it was, when he was in ministry, he had time to invest in that, even though it wasn't, financially really great, but he was able to put the time there, and he was able to do the parts of his business he enjoyed, but not the parts he didn't enjoy that, were stressful, but the parts that were life-giving. And then he was able, so it flowed with our whole family, the way our whole family worked. So it wasn't just about my time. And I feel like that made our family function in a way that we had wanted our family to function. And so I think there's so many different ways to do it, but for us, that's what it looked like. And for some people, it's a different flow. So that was just something that for us that, if your story looks a little bit like that.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't always look like, bringing my husband home to, be home full time in the next few years. Like I think sometimes people think like, oh, if you become really successful in Shaklee, then your husband quits his job. And maybe that's not what's, what your family wants or what is the plan for your family. But I do think that it has allowed something that I really caught the vision on early was just thinking about long term, and for my husband to not be carrying the full weight of the financial care for our entire family over the next 40 years or whatever, and to think that like I could help him like long term, and I can help our family long term, and I could even give him options because of the type of work that he does now that he might not necessarily be wanting to do at an older age. That really excited me to think that I can long term help him as well. So I see like, what it can do for us short term in these next few years, but then I also just think, far down the road too, and how much different that could be for our family.
I think that's a really good point, Lauren, because it isn't just the things that we're dealing with today. And for us, that was never like the plan was not, that wasn't the plan in the beginning either. Like, and, but circumstances change. And so I think what happens is you have this ability to make choices. Like you're saying, you don't know what the future is going to hold, but this gives you the ability to make choices, and it gives not just you, but Joe the ability to make choices. And choices about your time, choices about your finances, choices about your health, even because of that ability to choose. And I think that's where we found ourselves, was this ability to be able to do what we felt called to do and not what we were forced to do. And so I think you thinking about that, not just today, like today might be fine, but thinking about the options that brings down the road is huge.
Exactly.
And if I can just note too, and Lauren mentioned this, but I think this is an important exercise in a lot of ways, but I think one of the most important reasons is so important that you go through this exercise yourself and with your family and with your situation, because the way that the person who introduced you to Shaklee or your upline is doing Shaklee is absolutely individual, and it's not the way that you have to do it. And I've run into a lot of people over the years who that's the first objection is, but I don't want to quit my job. That's what I did. And they get a little nervous and a little standoffish when they think that that's how it has to be done. Well, I don't want to stay home, and I don't want to do it how you did it. And there's they're not trying to be rude, but it's just not their path. And I think it's very important to take a little time to recognize that you absolutely have every option available to you with what Shaklee has to offer you. And that doesn't have to mean you quitting your job, or like Lauren said, bringing your husband home from work. Personally, John doesn't want to do Shaklee as a business. He doesn't want to quit his job. He's very good and loves his job. And so that's not our focus. And so I do think that this type of exercise is so key because it's individual, and yours is not going to look like anybody else's. And I love the time piece that you guys keep talking about, because we can plan for right now, but there are so many Shaklee stories that we hear about where, for example, a husband gets injured at work and doesn't have the ability to do his job anymore. So maybe he didn't want to leave his job, but maybe they're forced for him to give up his job. And, these are the types of things that have saved a lot of people's livelihoods, these types of businesses. And so I do think that, those 2 points are just really important. Like, make this individual, make it work exactly for your family and for your situation and for your time of life, but also keeping an eye on casting it just a little bit further than what we have in front of us right now.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so if we move into the relationships realm, I think as we talk about all the time, we are aware that this is a relationship-based business. And it's not just with your clients and customers, it's also with your teammates and your uplines, your downlines, your teammates from around the nation in Shaklee Corp. Even with the people at corporate. And so when we think about our relationships, we also have to think about who we value most. And so oftentimes what comes to mind is family, right? Family comes first. Maybe some of you that's not the case, but typically that's what comes first. And so when we think about that, we have to start to, as Kristen just mentioned, craft our business to fit into the mold of the way we want it. And this is where that powerful word of choice comes into play. You get to decide that. So I'm just going to guide you through some questions regarding relationships. And I think over the next few screens, you're going to see a lot of questions. And so for those of you who are very introspective, you may need more time. Really, all of us should take more time to chew on this. And as Lauren mentioned, we'll have these available for you to do that later down the road. But as you're inundated with all these questions, try not to answer all of them in the few minutes I'm going to give you, but rather maybe focus on one or two that you can just really hone in on and define to get your thought process going, because we are going to focus on different areas. And so just starting with relationships here. So let me just read them, and then we'll take a minute to reflect and journal a little bit so that you have some time to slow down and think. Okay, so who do you value most? How do you envision your ideal relationship with your family and friends? What kind of wife or husband, mother or father, friend, leader, community member do you want to be? We wear a lot of hats, so what does that look like for you? What are some of your best attributes? And how do you want to cultivate growing into an even better version of yourself to improve the lives of others? So before we dig in, I want you to think about the idea of not only is this business offering financial freedom, has the potential to do that, not only can it strengthen relationships, but if you don't do it well, it could damage them, right? If we're not, careful with them. So making this a priority is really, really important. But also I would say that just making sure that personal development becomes part of who you are, because for those who have been in the company for a while now, they would probably wholeheartedly agree that they are not the same person they were when they signed on. And there have been rough patches and there have been celebrations and high moments. And it's through all of those experiences that they've really developed who they are and have been able to really define this area. But I feel like it's always going to be something that we need to focus on. So I'm going to be quiet now. pick a question or two and just start to jot down some thoughts. All right, let's go ahead. It's a lot to chew on. So if someone wants to share, maybe just pick a question and share some of the ideas that came to mind.
I think,
Well, one way that I want to,
go ahead.
sorry, the delay on my computer. One way that I want to cultivate growing into an even better version of myself is to spend more time reading and less time scrolling social media. So that's just one simple, but I think powerful way.
I think this whole idea is a huge piece of our vision of what we want for us, and like I said, everything is personal, but what we want our family life to look like, what we want that relationship with family and friends and those things, like that cultivates a lot of our vision, is those relationships, those values, like everything, like for us, our business, our budget, all those things stem from like the big picture of what do we want our family life to look like, and it stems down into how we spend our money and how we decide what activities our kids will do and how we run our business, and what are those goals come from that vision of like that, what do you value most? And that's been a really important piece for us. So I was really thinking about that too. And but I love the last question. I think that goes back to a lot of that first question that Katie talked about. But I've been thinking about that a lot lately because I love that part of our business because that piece like expands that piece of our business that we grow, that personal growth affects so much of our lives, because when you become a better version of yourself, which I've experienced this, like it doesn't just like benefit my team and my rank and all of these things, it really benefits all the people in my life, even the ones who don't buy Shaklee. So I think it's a really valuable question and something I don't want to ever stop thinking about.
I'll go. So that last question for me, how do I want to become an even better version of myself. Like, and this kind of, I would say, pairs with the question, what are your some of your best attributes? I feel like I am very good at advocating for other people, but to become a better version of myself, I need to be better at advocating for myself and why I believe in Shaklee and what I'm doing here, and the value that I could bring to others. Because I think I'm the first person to, you know, stop talking or not speak up when I know that I have something to say. So, and just, you know, about myself, if it, you know, if it's my kids, it's a whole different story. So I need to, you know, be a cheerleader for myself as well. And I think that could do some pretty big things.
I love that, Sam. Be a cheerleader for yourself. That's awesome. I know for me, this was actually the reason I didn't want a Shaklee business when I was first approached with the idea, because relationships are a huge value of mine. And I felt like if I went into a network marketing business, it would actually compromise my relationships and cause a greater divide between me and the people I love. And I would say in the beginning, it was just rough waters navigating that. Like, how do I share Shaklee without feeling like a salesperson and taking advantage of people? But it has been something that I've really, really worked hard on and have been intentional about, because I want it to enhance my relationships. And I'm seeing the fruit of that. I think just with like customers, I've noticed that when a customer has to share a health struggle, you know, that is not easy for someone to do. And so oftentimes they have to let down a wall or, you know, let you in and share with you something that, you know, their child's struggling with or they themselves are. And I found that that actually has created a lot of trust building between me and them, which I really take, I'm just honored by, and I take it very seriously. So my family does not purchase Shaklee products. I don't have any family members that do that. And so I think what Harper said too is, you know, just because they're not customers of mine doesn't mean that I'm not focusing on building relationship with them, right? I mean, this is just a life mission of my own. So I think there needs to be a lot of intentionality. So these questions are very good for me to just focus on, you know, what is it I want between, you know, in the relationships that I have with people, whether it's through Shaklee, outside of Shaklee, later on down the road, you know, related to my business and things like that. So
I also think that because of the flexibility we have in our business, I mean, I just think if I was a teacher still, I wouldn't be a part of a Bible study small group that I have every Wednesday morning. I wouldn't have the time to serve. I wouldn't have the time to meet a friend just in the middle of the day for lunch. So I think it's, or care for somebody or bring somebody a meal, those kinds of things. I think what's so neat is that our business opens up all of these opportunities. You know, even I think about how I even have time in my day to work out. Like if I was teaching, I'd have to wake up at, which I know some of you still do, Sam, but wake up at, you know, insane hours and get up early and or not work out. And so even that ability to care for yourself and go to the chiropractor in the middle of the day, like those kinds of things, I don't think we think enough about because I've just been so used to that. But those are huge things that we get to do. And those aren't small. And I think that that is one of the best things that I will forever be grateful for, that we have that freedom to kind of drop everything some days and just care for what's most urgent or what's most important.
I just
Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Jess. Go ahead, Jess.
I was just going to say, I wanted to jump in because something Karen said really resonated with me. And it's that idea that, which I think has kind of surprised me a bit about starting the business, that actually gives you an opportunity to really build deeper relationships. And I kind of had the same gut reaction at first, that it would feel salesy, but when we're really connecting with people, we're advocating for them in such a strong way that we wouldn't normally do, right? You're not naturally going to walk out there to be an advocate for every neighbor that you have. But
what I'm finding is that when I commit to reaching out and to connecting and to having those conversations, the relationships with those people just get deeper a lot quicker. And I just think that's such a beautiful benefit, and relationships are just such a key part of what this business offers. And it was sort of a sideways surprise for me how that's kind of unfolded. So just thought I'd add that too.
Love that.
I resonate with that too. I've experienced that so much, and even so many opportunities to, you know, whether it's people who you're close to and you learn more about them because you can serve them in this way, or people who like acquaintances or people like from my past, or just random people who I've been connected with. And I'm like, oh wait, why are we friends again? Oh, right. Because your cousin told you to call me about this, and now we have this relationship and I can pray for you. And like, because I know what's going to, like, just the way that it has bound relationships together has been really amazing, even amongst this team. Like the people that I know because of this team, and the way like those blessings have been outside of business things have been so valuable, and just how that people coming together to care for one another does that. I think it's a really good point, Karen.
Well, and have you ever slowed down to think through too of your customer list, just from reaching out to remind them of an auto ship or to see how they've reacted to a particular supplement? I mean, just those connection points, again, is a lost art that we have. And so we, you know, when you think about everyone in your life, you're actually touching base with your customers more often than you are, you know, anyone else. So it really does just create communication and trust, and it will, over time, it's just going to build, you know, a stronger and deeper relationship. So I'm really grateful for it.
Me too. And it's just really funny. I'll just throw this last thought out. So like my full-time gig is as a therapist, right? And what's becoming startling to me is the longer I do this, the more I realize that it's the same thing. And I knew that there were parallels, and not that everyone approaches the business the same way, but when people go in to see a counselor, sometimes they're at their most vulnerable, right? Like they're either at their most broken, or they're most vulnerable, or they're something is making them reach out for help. And it's so interesting that it makes me really aware what an honor it is that people are approaching us with the same sort of vulnerability and brokenness when it's about their physical health or something, or their mental health, right? We help that with Shaklee as well. But it just is really profound. And I guess I think it's really cool, because I don't think most people think about how powerful those relationships are going to get to be, or the opportunity. You have the opportunity to have really deep and lasting impacts on people, which on the surface you wouldn't expect when we're talking about vitamins, right? But the longer you do it and the more you connect with people, the more that becomes really a clear benefit for them and for us. I think it's just a really cool thing that we get to do.
So good. So good.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, Jess. Okay, so another area that we wanted to chat about was knowledge and wisdom. So this is something that I know I'm really thankful for, because when I think that I get to use my background in education and get to use this now at home and still be a stay-at-home mom, which is what I've always wanted to do, this is just really, it really makes me feel really thankful, because I feel like I get to utilize what I spent, years trying to build for, and then I graduated, and then not long after I got pregnant, and then I stayed home. And so it makes me feel like I get to utilize something that I was passionate about, but use it in a way that I truly desire. And that's being able to stay home. So with that said, the first question, in what areas and in what ways do you most want to grow in knowledge and wisdom, and how do you want to do it? And the second question, what are some of the things you have learned that you are passionate about helping others to learn as well? And why is that? What do I need to believe in order to be, do, or have what I'm envisioning? And what do I need to stop telling myself or believing that is negatively impacting me? So we'll take, again, a few minutes to reflect on these questions, and then we can share with each other. Okay. So I know we could spend probably a long time reflecting in here, but this is why we can definitely spend more time after. But does anyone want to share some of the things that you wrote down? I know for me, one thing, I'm really passionate about helping others to feel empowered with their health, because I know how much, how much it affects so many areas of our life. And I think back to times in my life where I felt so helpless and I truly didn't understand that there were solutions out there that could help me feel better. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about, is just helping others to feel empowered and feel like they have choices and that there are small things that they can do that can add up to make a really, really big difference in their life.
Lauren, can I add on to what you just said?
Yes, please.
I feel so much the same way as you. And what I didn't understand when I didn't want to take any vitamins, I just wanted a shake, right, to lose weight, is that good nutrition helps with everything. So like, I never believed that my reflux disease would go away. I never believed that my body would respond so well to just good nutrition. And I think so many people don't have that background that, wow, when I do one thing to help myself, it helps 10 other things in my body. And just that building of like wellness. And so I feel like that's my mission, just to teach people, for them and for their kids, that this can be your life and this is real. It's not pretend. I mean, someone told us the other day that it seems kind of like too good to be true, because people really do think that. So anyways, I think that's really powerful.
I think the biggest thing that I would love every single person that comes into Shaklee to know is that it's worth persevering and never quitting. I think that's like the biggest thing, that like when someone quits, it's like, oh, if you only knew what you're leaving behind. And that's with me only doing in the business for 6.5 years. And I mean, I'm going to be doing this a lot longer than that, hopefully. And so I think just learning that it's worth the work. It's worth the energy. It's worth what you need to put in order to get to what you're looking for, if that makes sense. And I think for me, it's like to stop telling myself, like to stop doubting myself and stop believing that like I'm not deserving of great things. I think I really struggle with that. And I tell myself like, but you're not, like, I don't know, just I have that self-doubt that I shouldn't deserve, amazing things to happen for our family, or and I doubt myself a lot.
I know something that I struggle with too is just believing that like if I, there's so many things I want to do really, really well. And sometimes I feel like if I'm not perfect to every person and in every role and every opportunity, then like I'm like failing or something like that, and I'm just, I need to to tell myself that that there's grace, and that also that I can continue each day to to try and fill all my different roles well. And there's a lot of spiritual beliefs that go into these things too, but I think sometimes we can default to a negative state of mind of either feeling like you're not a good enough leader, or not helping enough people, or letting your family down, or whatever it might be. But instead it's like we have this amazing opportunity every single day to make choices that help us get to a better version of ourselves. And we're not going to have a day that goes by where we are perfect. but we can always be making those little choices to help us become a better version. So, okay, Harper.
Hey, oh, okay, forget it.
Cindy, yay!
I was gonna say something. Hi, everybody. Okay. So, oh, wait. Can you go back? Can you go back one?
Yes.
Can you go back one? Because I need to see. Okay. So, this is gonna answer like two of those questions. So, like, what do I need to stop telling myself or believing? So, like, I always feel like I don't know. I do not know what all of these ladies know. I don't know enough. I'm scared to even start conversations sometimes because what if somebody tells me about like a health issue that they're having, and then I'm like, okay, I don't really know. Like, I'm thinking, I don't say it. Like, I don't really know how to help you. Like, let me call somebody else who does. And I know that's part of learning, but then I'm also like, I tell Karen this all the time. I'm also like, I want to learn. I want to learn. I need to learn. But then like, I'm not doing what I need to do to learn. And so, I think just digging in and doing it. Like, I listened to and watched 2 podcasts this week, ladies. And so I'm like, I feel like I'm learning something. So I think that's like the thing is just to start doing it and to recognize like there has to be a starting point. Like, I'm not going to know everything that I need to know right off the bat, but by not starting is not helping me. Does that make sense?
Yes. So good.
Okay. Thank you. Kate and Harper.
That's awesome. No, I think that's so powerful that you
I think
shared
it's
that
so
because
true, like just baby steps.
it is. And I think that it's so, can you not see me? Or is that someone else? Can you see me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think that's so important because guess what? Sometimes people talk to me about health issues and I have to say to them, you know, I know we can help you, but I'm going to have to ask someone and get some information. Can I do some research for you and get you some information? Like I say that. I do. And so just for whatever that's worth to empower you to know that there are things that I've learned along the way, but when we serve as a resource and an advocate, we have like, that's what we're doing. We're being a resource. And so we know where to get the information and we can bless people with that. So for whatever that's worth. But so I think that it's crucial when you're thinking about, you know, the whole, we're going through this process so we can put some things on our vision board. So we can put some things on our board that will help us to do the things we need to do to get where we're going to go. And on my vision boards, and I had to take some of them down, and I've saved a lot of the pieces over the years of like my original vision boards because I want to remember. But a lot of them are put away because I don't know if you know, we were like gonna move, but now we're not gonna move. So I couldn't find a lot of them to show you pictures. But on those very first vision boards, it said things like that I wanted to help people with their health. I mean, like all of these things we've talked about, those were on the vision boards. But there are also really practical things that we need to think about because those are the things that we want to really consider, like that are going to make us excited every day to do the next thing. And like who we become, way more important. How we impact the world, way more important. But there are things that affect our daily life. And I want you to remember is that some of those are big and some of those are small. But some of the ones that are going to make the most impact have nothing to do with a rank or a trip or anything else. It is the way, like I always talk about, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but any given Thursday, like what do you want life to be like on any given Thursday afternoon? Like those little things that make a difference are often the things that are big. And our vision boards don't have to be full. I mean, like if you want to go on a trip, awesome, put it up there. If you love to travel, awesome, put it up there. But it's also things that make a big difference. And Katie mentioned a few of the things that have been on mine, my dream board, you know, chiropractic, you know, our insurance, we don't have insurance that covers chiropractic. So that was a goal board of ours that we wanted to be able to go to the chiropractor on a regular basis. And when we got to a certain, you know, income, we were like, all right, we can do this. And Vivix was on our list. I had a picture of like just a mouth with braces because I knew my kid was going to need braces, which she did. And I wanted that to be something that didn't stir up anxiety and stress. It was something that we could take care of. I had organic eggs. I just wanted to be able to buy organic eggs and organic chicken, like small things to be able to do that. We had date night. We wanted to increase our date night budget. We want, like little things along the way that make a big difference. And so when you really think about what is it that I want my life to look like for Christine, it was a great example of I want my Saturdays back. And what I do love is that you can look at the people that are on your team and their visions are powerful and their goals for their life. Like I remember when Katie got the call that their offer was accepted. I remember where I was sitting when Christine called me and told me that she was going to stop tutoring on Saturdays, because those are things, because it's not, I don't remember where I was when Christine told me she hit coordinator, or where Katie was, or where I was when Katie told me she hit key. But those things that made a difference in their lives, those things that, we don't like walk across the stage when we, stop tutoring on Saturdays, but that's the thing that makes the most impact on me, because that's the thing that I know is going to make the biggest impact in her family's life. And so really thinking about what are those things? What are those things that could be different in your life? And really kind of putting a pulse on those. And you can put the big things up there, put the car payment up there, but also but think about the things that really just impact that day-to-day life, because I think those are powerful. And when you're sitting down and you have your list of people to invite to the next webinar or the next big event, or you're deciding if you're going to host an event in your home, you might look up at that trip and be like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that anyway. But you look up at there and you're like, I want to be able to afford to go on a monthly date night with my husband, or whatever it is, you're like, yes, I can do this. And, or I want to build relationships. I want to be the kind of person that these people trust. And because the point of the vision board is that you see that, and then when the time comes where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm afraid to do this, you can 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can do it because you're empowered by what you see the bigger picture is. Because it's easy to be like, yeah, I got other stuff to do. I'm not going to do this right now. But when you see the bigger picture of what's ahead, that's what drives you. This stuff is your due. So we can move on to the next one. I can move on to the next slide real quick, and then we'll talk about. So, anyway, actually, go back. So, does anybody have any things they want to share about this one? And then we'll go to the next one. Like any things that, little things that you think that's something that I want, that would change my life, that would change my family. Small things that would make a big difference to you. Does anyone want to share a couple of those? All right. Well, if you think of them, jump in. And we can talk more about those, but I think those are things to think about. So experiences. So there's so many experiences that we want to have. Like Christine was talking about trying to take her family on a missions trip. Maybe it is travel. I mean, I remember, at that season when we were in ministry, and there's this family of 5 on the beaches of Hawaii, and being like, we would never be able to do something like this. We would never be able to do something like this. And realizing that this was an experience that we were able to have because of this business, and being actually really excited that we could help other families who could never experience something like this, experience that. When you think about experiences of serving, like Christine was talking about, just the ability to try new things and go new places, the experiences that you want for your team, that you want for your family. I think thinking about, I love this question, how will I feel when I'm working towards my vision and have and do the things I want to experience? So thinking about it's not, the bigger picture of what those experiences mean for you, for your family, for your team, and realizing that we can take the steps to move towards those, and really thinking about what would that be like, so that when you're making those decisions to do, they empower you because of this. Does anyone have any of those that they would like to share?
For me, travel, when people ask me what my hobbies are, travel is like number one on my list. Because I just love experiencing different cultures. And so obviously with global travel, that's a lot more expensive than it is to travel just to Indiana. And so, you know, I've had the blessing of being able to actually travel a lot of places around the world. But they've been through fundraising and things like that. So that's still definitely an intention of mine. But I would love to be able to expose and teach my kids a lot about having a global perspective, and then also bringing other people along as well. And so whether that's in a mission setting or just even experiencing through a vacation or a trip, I just feel like that is, I would rather live in a shed and see the world than the other way around, you know, like that's just how I'm wired. So it makes me excited to think about that. And I was thinking the other day, like, I think I was watching the Today Show and I thought, oh gosh, I just want to go back to New York City. It'd be so fun. I haven't been there in forever, just for a weekend and see a couple Broadway shows. And gosh, wouldn't that be fun? And I turned to Casey, wouldn't that be fun? He's like, no. Because he's tone deaf and he hates Broadway shows. But I said, but if we went, would you go with me? He's like, I suppose. So you guys, I'm putting that on my list because that's something I really want to do, and I want to go there with my husband, and he'll humor me and go along with me, you know. But like that is something where I can't justify it unless it's something that we can actually afford to do, and it'd be something that I would want to work towards, not just, oh, let's just go to New York this weekend, but like something like it becomes something that I'm working towards, and it's a way to celebrate. And then of course do that with my husband and spend some quality time together without our children too. So, oh, Cindy said she'll go with me. I knew you would, Cindy. Casey may take you up on that. So, so anyways, travel's a big one for me.
Okay, Karen, do you want to lead us through this time piece and then we'll kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, we have a girls trip going, it looks like. So anyone else that wants to come with me, let me know. Okay. All right, the irony, we're on time and we're running out of it. So, but really this is a piece that when I talk about like eye-opening for me, it was my time and how I use my time. And I have found that I have been a bad steward of my time. And really what happened was when I was given more of it this fall, again, just by kind of shifting into the full-time arena work with Shaklee, I almost had to teach myself how to be quiet and still, because it was a discipline that I had never developed, having worked full-time 19 years. And again, this isn't quit your job and have more time. I'm not trying to say that at all, but I'm just sharing my experience of realizing how badly abused my time was, whether it was, you know, like Lauren shared, scrolling on social media or watching television or just filling up my calendar with things. It really has been eye-opening for me to learn how to value time and make sure I'm using it well and seeing it as a resource. So Shaklee can offer that, because really when you're working, you can pair relationship building with your job with Shaklee, right? So a coffee appointment can actually be work, quote unquote, and that could be a use of time. Or the personal development piece of reading books or listening to podcasts or going to seminars or workshops can be a good use of time. And so it's really thinking about how we use our time. Now, every single one of us will always say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time in the week to get my job done or to spend with my family, or I mean, whatever, fill in the blank. But the reality is we all have the same amount of minutes on this earth. and it's how we spend our time and use our time. And so really slowing down to think through, what could it look like? Start to dream, envision, what could it look like if you did free up time? If you did have the ability, now again, to even spend more time with your family. This is, again, apart from Shaklee, but Shaklee can provide that for you. So here are the questions to reflect on, and we aren't going to spend tons of time on it, but how do you want to use your time? How can you more effectively use your time? Visualize what a day well spent would look like. If our habits become our values, do you feel that your current habits are positively contributing to your vision and your values? What do I need to stop doing? And what do I need to start doing? So I'll just give you a second to jot a couple things down. I think that third question is a really powerful question, because habits, if our habits become our values, and so someone was talking about exercise earlier. I mean, I think I went an entire year without exercising, you guys. And it wasn't because I didn't have the time, but it was because it wasn't a habit. I wanted to value it, but I didn't. And then by the time I got home from work, I literally had nothing left in me physically to want to go work out. And I'm not a morning person. So, but when I look back on that time, there are some simple changes I could have made in even my workday or the time when I got home to make sure I had the energy to do that, or to schedule it in, or to not have any excuses, right? So it is a shift of making habits align with our values. That's a really, really, I just love that question right there. Anyone want to share a challenge regarding time or a success?
I think this was a concept that was so foreign to me, like you, Karen, because I had worked since I was 14 years old.
Yep.
And I think the first time that this idea of envisioning what a day would look like without the obligations that were in my life, like just kind of dreaming, was at a New Directors Conference. And so if you haven't tapped into the possibility of going there, please do so, because this is where I believe, and I think Harper would vouch for this too, this is where I really believe that John and I had the time to slow down enough to think about time and what it could mean to us, and how we could change our time and not feel so obligated to grind every single day, day in and day out. And not to say that doing that is wrong or bad, or, you know, something you shouldn't want to do. It's just giving yourself, like, it's almost like shutting off that part of your brain for a moment to then decide, what if I had this time? And then developing some habits, like Karen's talking about, around creeping toward that, perhaps. And again, you know, I think a lot of times people feel like we, Shaklee, whoever, is encouraging everybody to go quit their jobs. I mean, John was so on that bandwagon for the longest time. He's like, Shaklee's like a big a fest for women to say, like, hey, husbands, I'm quitting my job. And that doesn't have to be like that for everybody, but it is interesting to think any given Thursday, like, if you had tomorrow off, and you woke up and you had tomorrow off, what would you do to fill your time? And I just think that gives me like goosebumps, because there's so much possibility there, and it's so exciting to think about. And if you haven't allowed yourself to do that, I highly recommend it. And if you Want a little concentrated time to do that? Get to New Directors Conference.
Well, I think when we're frazzled and strung out because we don't build in time for ourselves or to build ourselves up, whether it's health or just mental clarity, energy, whatever, what good are we? I mean, we don't, that's when we start to feel insufficient, right? In our roles, like what kind of friend am I? What kind of wife am I? When I'm always stressed out or frazzled. And again, this has nothing to do with whether you work full time or you don't, or you have kids or you don't. I mean, it's all about how you use your time. So this is something I strongly encourage you to really, really hone in on, focus on, because this could be a game changer in your business and even just in your life if you really study the way you use your time.
Right. And I think if you feel like there's something like that you want to value, like exercise, I want to value that, like, because I know that's an important part for health, and you feel like you don't have time for it, then I would just encourage doing like a time audit of like your days and just keeping track of that for a few days and just seeing, where, like Karen, you were saying, like, thinking back, like where could you be creative in, building in those habits that, create the life that you want to live. So, we're going to end here. And so kind of just as you think about your next steps and reflecting on these, I just really encourage you to spend some more time journaling and to discuss these questions with your spouse, if you're married, with a teammate, with your upline. I just think it's so good to get these thoughts out and being able to discuss them with others. And then as you think about your vision board, start to gather some images and supplies and quotes. Like inspiring quotes are great, but just keep in mind that images use that right side of our brain, that creativity side in our subconscious. So make sure that you do find good images. And also when you do use quotes or written material, make sure that they are positive and present tense. So, and then also I just encourage setting a deadline. We do want to have a follow-up Zoom where we kind of craft these together, but I just think, we can tell ourselves that this is important, but then if we don't set any kind of a deadline, then it just gets pushed to the back burner. So I would just encourage getting out your planner, and maybe it's scheduling in a coffee chat with someone to go over this stuff, and then maybe it's scheduling in going to Michael's or whatever it might be to get things, and then finishing this board. And it's going to continue to evolve, but we just think that this can make just such a huge impact and just really be a positive place for you to see what you are working towards. And I hope that this was helpful. Do you guys have any questions before we end? I will stop recording.
Thank you, Lauren, for putting this together. This was amazing. And I think you really asked some good questions, really think about the bigger picture of not just putting director or coordinator or master coordinator on a board, but what the bigger picture is. I think you did such a good job putting this together and the whole team. So thank you so much for just inspiring so many people.
Good team effort. Thanks, everyone. All right. Have a good evening.